You're listening to Let's Talk Sustainable Business.
Hello, and welcome back to Let's Talk Sustainable Business, a podcast hosted by the Conference Board's Global Sustainability Center. I'm your host, Claudia Lee. Today, I would like to welcome back Lene Serpa, Head of Corporate Sustainability and ESG at Maersk. In our last episode, we sat down to talk about Maersk's net zero goals, and the firm is basically planning to become net zero by 2040. So we discussed some of the milestones that they put in place between now and 2040 to ensure that these goals will be achieved. Lene, welcome back. It's been great speaking to you so
You.
far, and the conversation has been extremely insightful. So now, after covering a little bit about Maersk's sustainability goals, I would like to talk more about your experience as corporate sustainability lead at the company. Um, and I first want to understand what you think are the critical factors to success as the head of corporate sustainability. What has worked so far?
Well, that's a big question, Claudia, but thanks. Maybe if I look back, so I've been with Maersk for 12 years, working with sustainability, and also before that, working in other companies on corporate sustainability. And I think one of the key things, well, there's a couple of things I want to highlight. So one which has been, I think, consistent throughout our work with sustainability and ESG in Maersk all the years that I've been here, is that we're very oriented also to making sure this is close to business. It's integrated into business in terms of how we uh, um, make decisions, in terms of how we operate our business, engage with customers, partners, etc. Every all the way through to, of course, how we then also report on our performance externally. So it's very critical that sustainability is not something that's in a silo off to the side, but it is actually integrated into business. And following that you would say logic and necessity, what we've done in Maersk is we've made sure to anchor the overall responsibility for our ESG strategy with our executive leadership team. Ultimately, of course, with our board of directors having oversight of it. Um, but then we've our ESG strategy, as I mentioned in the previous episode, encompasses 14 material topic areas or programs across environment, social, and governance dimensions, and each of them are owned by, sponsored by one of our executive leadership team members. So there's accountability for the results is anchored at the executive level, and program ownership is then also anchored with some different specific functions. So my team, for example, my responsibility does not extend to delivering on all of our sustainability programs and priorities. We have, for example, when it comes to our net zero ambition, which we discussed, we have a dedicated energy transition team, which has been built up over and extended over the last few years, which is really they're the ones taking ownership and being accountable for delivering on the net zero ambitions, together then with even today almost a wide range of colleagues in the business, because it's extending to the products that we develop, the engagement with our customers, how we engage with investors, and et cetera, regulators, and so on. So it really involves a massive amount of people. And then for me and my team in corporate sustainability and ESG, we are engaged across all of these program areas. We work to ensure as much as possible alignment across these efforts. and bring this together in such a way that we can have oversight of progress, that we can have, ensure that our leadership is aware if there are challenges, if there are barriers we need to address and overcome. And yeah, so it's a very different, let's say, uh, challenge that we face today working with sustainability in corporations, where 10, 15 years ago, the challenge was more around how do we get everyone on board, to now, everyone is on board, but then how do we make sure that people are actually moving in the same directions, right? Because, yeah,
Yes, that actually is the next question I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned you were working for the company for at least 12 years now. How has the idea of corporate sustainability and CSR shifted from when you first started to now? Because
yeah,
the term ESG really only became more hyped in the past, I think, 5, 6 years or even less.
yes,
Um,
yes,
Before that, it was more CSR. So I'm just
yeah.
wondering, in your point of view, how has the material understanding of corporate sustainability shifted?
Yeah, yeah. It has shifted quite significantly. I think we've seen sort of several waves of, um, uh, let's say, application of how companies apply their efforts within this space. You're right that coming from, at the outset, CSR, corporate social responsibility, which was also, I think, an important fundamental driver within Mask to begin with. The more principled approach to recognize that as companies we have a responsibility to mitigate potential negative impacts on people or on planet or the environment. And Maersk being a very values-based organization, that actually came naturally to the company, to its leadership, to then really have that strong values and purpose driven outset for our work initially, and that remains very strong, I would say. The next wave or level, if you will, of work was really connected to understanding how does this connect to our business and our strategy. It's not only about responsibility; it's also sustainable development, sustainability challenges are also areas where we actually can work through our business to apply our assets, our expertise to make a difference, to contribute to create value for society, but in a way that also creates value to our business. So really understanding the opportunity element to it, and that's was also, if you look at a broader level to what was going on around the world, really captured well when the UN Sustainable Development Goals were launched. Um, in the again also around, was it 2015, that that really also captured that opportunity or that perspective that businesses have a key role to play, and it can actually serve as a real opportunity also for businesses. Um, and that's something that we've also worked towards very much in Mask, both when it comes to climate. Certainly, we're still very much oriented towards how can it be an opportunity for our business? How can we help our customers to decarbonize their supply chains in a way that we're actually developing products and solutions in this space and positioning ourselves as someone who can help our customers on this journey. So the final then perspective, I would say, which is really coming in also with the ESG lens in particular, although ESG is also broader than that, but from the financial sector side, from investor side, notably with the launch of the TCFD, right, Task Force for Climate Related Financial Disclosure, also around 2015, 2016, was the perspective of risk, right? That climate, in particular, sustainable sustainability challenges more widely are not only opportunities, they're not only responsibilities for businesses, they also constitute potential risks, and of course captured very well in the TCFD framework by investors wanting to understand, if I am buying into a company, what are the potential future risks that this company or this industry might be facing due to transition risks, physical risk related to climate. And in Maersk, that perspective has also been very much a driver in our work on climate, because through applying this perspective and doing strategic analysis, we've been able to understand that decarbonization is actually a strategic imperative to us. It's a long-term risk, strategic risk to our business if we do not decarbonize, because everything that we see happening at the broader societal level. We spoke earlier about regulatory developments, for example, customer expectations, investor expectations. Everything is pushing the shipping industry, for example, logistics more broadly, with to expect a higher level of performance on climate. So if we do not follow along, then we will become irrelevant, right? Our customers will have to go to other uh, uh, companies to actually get help on decarbonization, for example. So that's why it is strategically relevant for us to take a proactive and leadership role in actually being the ones that can provide those solutions. So all of these, if I think what I've been trying to outline, both the development of the CSR sustainability ESG journey more broadly, but then also exemplified by how these understandings have then also matured our work in Maersk. And I think the stage we're in now in Maersk is, in 2022, we launched our updated ESG strategy, and we called it ESG, indeed also to both because it resonated well internally to have those headlines of environment, social governance, sort of a quite systematic approach. Um, Whereas the term sustainability can sometimes feel a little bit more fluffy, a little bit more difficult to perhaps understand exactly, but what is included, what does it mean? Um, so we were always having to explain, when we talk about sustainability, we are not only talking about environment, we're also talking about social and governance. But that is very clear when we say ESG. People understand that. However, we continue to use the terms more or less interchangeably, I have to say. When you look at the substance underneath of what our commitments are, what we're doing, it is fundamentally the same thing. But the ESG lens has now enabled us also to have a more specific focus on pulling out, what are our targets? What are we committing to on our sustainability slash ESG journey, and also having a more specific focus on how are we reporting on this? How are we incorporating it really into the core of our strategy and our financial reporting as well? So ultimately, with the goal of having ESG in the future on par with financial reporting.
Yes. Okay. So, moving a little bit on to your own learning journey as the head of corporate sustainability at Maersk, I know that passion also extends to your personal life, and that's why you've written a book um, called "Squaring the Sustainability Circle," which I think is a very interesting name because visually it's a very interesting thought, squaring the sustainability circle. I like the play on words. Um, can you tell me a bit about what this book is about, and have you perhaps extracted some of the principles from your lessons as a leader at Maersk, or is it the other way around? Like you've maybe applied these rules to your leadership in your role right now?
Well, so at the outset, it was definitely very much the first, in the sense that this is a book that I've written together with my very good former colleagues at Maersk, and a great partner of ours, Nigel Salter, who we've worked with for many years. Um, so the idea behind the book was really that we started writing it. We actually wrote it first in Danish, and then we made an English translation. So the Danish book came out in 21, and the English version in 22. But so it came about really also in response. We were starting to see so much movement in this, you say, ESG space. We're really starting to see this acceleration also of momentum around sustainability and ESG, and there was a strong uptake across many companies and across investors as well. And we were really also seeing a lot of confusion, which I think is to some degree still the case, unfortunately. Um, but in the sense that you know so many, whether it be reporting frameworks, consultancies developing models, accounting firms coming out with their models and interpretations. Everybody seemed to be pouring into the space of saying this is what sustainability is, this is what ESG is, and I think that in some cases many business leaders were quite confused about it. And what we wanted to do was to, with this book, to actually contribute based on our learnings and the cases from our work at Mask in particular, to write in a quite relatively practical way to business leaders, company directors, board directors, to say this is actually how you can work with sustainability in a way that is strategic, drives strategic value for the company, but also in a way where you encompass the different perspectives that we believe are necessary. So actually encompassing all of the perspectives that I was mentioning before, because working strategically with ESG and sustainability, it's not only about risk, it's not only about responsibility, it's not only about opportunity, it's actually all of those things. And you have to then be able to um, address and work systematically with those different perspectives. And so that was the idea then also behind calling it, how to square the circle, because we felt that some of that tension that you see in the discussions about, how can you actually, as companies, how can you work with sustainability in a way that actually benefits society and the environment, but also at the same time delivers value to the company. Yeah, so these two are not, in our view,
They're
sort
not
of.
mutually exclusive.
No, exactly. We believe that you
Mm-hmm,
can
mm-hmm.
that you can actually, in that sense, square the circle, right?
Mm, I love
And
that.
that's
I need to get myself a copy.
please, please do. Yeah, no. So, and it was actually also a lot of fun, I have to say, to write the book and to put these thoughts together. So it's very much a book written by practitioners, but also with the intention to be, also have some practical and useful models that companies can then work with to support their work on
Mhm.
sustainability.
Right, yes. And I'm sure with all the new insights you've gained, even just over the past few months, you will be able to continue to update.
Absolutely. If we had time, we
Yeah,
we
yeah.
would want to continuously update, because it's a field that just continues to evolve, and there are so many great people coming into the field
Yeah.
now, and also so many interesting cases and experiences that are out there to learn from, not just in Mask but in many other companies as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, and I think the work that you do, as well as the work that you're leading Moller-Maersk through is a very important part of that, like not only in the industry, but in the overall transition to net zero. So thank you very much for all the work that you're doing. And there are so many more questions that I would like to ask, but unfortunately, we don't have all the time in the world. But I will continue to follow you on your journey on LinkedIn. But for now, I'd like to thank you again for your time. It's just been very, very
You're welcome.
insightful to hear you break down the milestones to the net zero goals and to talk about how your role sort of oversees that as well. Like it's very interesting because sometimes the head of like corporate sustainability and ESG is still quite abstract, and to hear exactly what you
Yes.
do is very insightful, I'm sure, for myself and also for our listeners. So thank you very much, Lene. And now I would like to end the podcast. So I think before that, I would like to also say, if the readers are interested in buying your book, is there anywhere they can find it?
Yes, you can find it online. We have a website, squaringthesustainabilitycircle.com. So you can.
We'll add the link in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Thanks.
And for now, thank you for tuning into this episode of Let's Talk Sustainable Business. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to our podcast series or explore the entire catalog of podcast programming from the Conference Board by visiting our website at www.conference-board.org. And if you have any thoughts to share with us, you can also email us at sustainability@tcb.org.